I don't have any great fear of God. I mean, I don't want to do those things that would put a wedge between myself and God. I mean, this is why I practice so much contemplation and meditation, things like that. It's because I don't want to lose um, that sense of awakening and being present to God and the kingdom of God being within me and all of that sort of thing. So I would say, what did universalism probably contribute to that? And it would be that I don't fear God. I mean, I don't have the idea that I'm going to, that judgment is something that happens all the time. I'm constantly reviewing my life and my actions, and when I see something that's wrong, I immediately seek to change it or whatever, and I know I'm going to fail again and again and again. But I have no sense at all that God's grace isn't there to see me through that, and I have no great desire to offend that. So, and why do I have that? It's because I trust in the fact that no matter what, the reality of God is always there. So I don't have to fear losing that. I can turn to that when I have to, uh, even for the cleansing of my body, soul, and spirit. And so I would say universalism, because it is a hopeful view, a view of infinite mercy and infinite. And also the fact that God has a purpose for all creation, that we're actually headed in a direction that we can say we don't understand what it'll be like, we can't comprehend it, but we can say that whatever it is, it's going, like the oak tree and the acorn, it'll be more glorious than we can comprehend, or it'll be something different than what we are now. And I would say universalism just gives me that hope, but also has taken away, well, I just don't have that fear. It just isn't a component of my faith. To me, that's the benefit of universalism, is that I'm not asking questions about whether or not God is a tyrant or God will for me is, and nagging myself. I would say one of the great problems many Christians have is they nag themselves to death, wondering, taking their spiritual temperature on a constant basis, because they don't trust in this reality that they can tune into anytime that they need to, and find the grace that's sufficient to carry them over. And so it's not a license to sin, so to speak. It's like St. Paul, shall we sin that grace may abound? Me genoita, God forbid. Um, Nothing like that. That question shouldn't even come up. Of course we don't sin that grace may abound. We try to live in that abounding grace at all times, and that's what universalism is a promise of. Perfect love casts out fear. And what is perfect love? Well, it isn't just God's love for me. It's also the fact that in God's love for me, I've learned to love God. So in loving God and wanting to be close to him, which is the whole purpose of, actually, if you're going to say, what is it that you should be doing in your meditative life, is that's where you draw close to God. You're not praying for somebody. You're not praying for yourself. You're coming close to God. You're having an encounter with God. That's what meditation and contemplation are for. Once you've done that for years, once you have practiced that, the last thing in the world you want to do is to sin, and to do that which is in effect going to be not moving ahead, but taking you further away from that which you love. Okay. Yeah, but that's not a denial of the realities of life. You can still have a happy life, joyful life, have laughter and fun, and do stupid things and all that. But the one thing you don't want to do is be entrapped by those evil aspects, those evil passions that indwell us and which tend to drag us down and drag us away from the living reality of that which we know indwells us. And so that's what meditation is for. Once you have practiced that for some time, I would say that anybody who practices that long enough will eventually become, at least for all practical purposes, a universalist. I don't see how they could not, because what it tends to do is connect you with everything that exists, and you begin to look at everything charitably. Even those who are who do terrible things, you can at least have hope for them, and you begin to understand deeply that we're all in the same boat. That all human beings, we're all failures. We're all frail. We're all stumbling along. We're all going to face evils and struggles and everything else. But we're all in the same boat, and you have charity towards others. And the only way you're ever going to come to that realization is when your brain, you learn, to shut up and to stop listening to the traffic of your own mind, and stop being judgmental and everything else, which we all tend to be, but to be quiet and silent and in the presence of God, who is infinitely merciful and good. And when we do that long enough and practice that regularly, my thinking is it is pretty hard not to become a universalist, at least in the area of hope.